Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Shay coming back at y'all with another episode of the Emmaus proposition. It's really good to be on with y'all, man. Hope everybody doing well, man. Doing well. Been praying for y'all, man. Thank you for everybody who's been tuning in, not only over on YouTube, man, but also on the podcast. It's been an honor, man. So far, it's been an honor to hear feedback from y'all. Different stuff you like to hear me talk about. Different stuff on some of the episodes or some of the content we've been putting out, man. I appreciate all of it and love y'all. I really do. It's been a real treat to get on here and just talk about Christ and the boldness that's brought just in my daily life, man, and the way not just boldness but increase in attack has definitely been interesting. And but no, it's been good, man. It's been really good. Over here at work today, I started my first Bible study here in the office with a couple brothers in the Lord. And that's been cool. I mean, it was a cool experience, man, just to see where people are in their faith. People just seeing me in a different light. Here at my job, man, I don't get an opportunity to preach the word like I want to. I don't get an opportunity to like sermon prep and dive into like Greek and Hebrew and putting together hermeneutics and stuff like that. And so having the opportunity to sit down with some brothers, open up the scriptures, man. We starting in the book of John and just leading them through, man. And so it's cool to hear other people's perspective, to challenge them on some of their thinking as far as theology goes. And really, man, like just kind of putting forth the doctrines of grace, putting forth how big God is, how sovereign he is, how it's not in our efforts that we are saved by grace, but it's through Christ alone that we're saved. It was a good time, and I'm looking forward to having more folks come through. Already had a couple folks reach out to me, contact me, say, hey, I wanted to come, but I have some other stuff, and so we're gonna try to keep it going, man. But this podcast, man, like I can see how just the weekly touch and base with just pointing things to Christ and kind of working my way through, whether it's with guests or solo, you know what I'm saying? Just daily pumping my brain in a way that says, but how do we see Christ in this? And how does this lead us to Christ, man? It's been awesome, man. And hopefully as y'all been listening to this, it's been a blessing to you on your journey with Christ. Having said all that, today I want to talk about being a creative. So I didn't grow up necessarily being a creative. I think I dabbled in it a little bit. Like I remember in the eighth grade. It was eighth grade. In my middle school, they started a creative writing class, right? And during the class, like we had to write all kind of poems and stuff like that. Just kind of exploring with words and all that kind of instruction. And I think I did okay with it, man. I did okay, so much so that I got invited to a little summer program at Clemson University. And it was a creative writing thing that they invited us out and gave us a little course on what it would look like to be a professional writer and stuff like that. I didn't really take to it too hard, man. I continue to write a little bit here and there. I got some poems floating around somewhere on some. It was back in the 90s, so it's probably on some kind of Palm Pilot or something like that. something ancient that's no longer accessible, but was never really a creative. Like I know some cats that, you know, they sit around with a notebook and just write rhymes, and you know, they got their backpack and they're everywhere they go, they're just kind of they're formulating their words. They're thinking about beats and how rhymes just kind of flow together with beats and stuff like that. That was never me. I never did anything like that. There's cats that can just think about worlds and languages and ideas and stuff like that, and just put it down on paper. And I was never that guy. I was never really that guy. And so, matter of fact, if y'all knew me before becoming a Christian and before becoming a pastor, man, I remember even at me and my wife's wedding, I couldn't even thank people for coming. Like, words for a long time, I just wasn't a words person. You know what I mean? And so now, being in a space where I am not sitting necessarily in a pastoral role right now, I'm sitting in a chaplain role, which has some pastoral duties to it, but I'm not in a civilian church where I'm carrying the title of pastor, and I miss it, man. Quite honestly, but God, I feel like God is taking this season of life and just doing different stuff with me, right? So it's definitely exposing some stuff about me, some stuff I like, some stuff I don't like. But it's been interesting, man. God kind of allowing me to explore what it's like to be a creator, a content creator. And so my first little official dabble in content creation is I wrote a book. And so I didn't really highly publicize it or anything like that. I didn't do any kind of advertisement for it. It was mostly just word of mouth that people heard about it, but it's called Chronicles of a Bridge. And so in Chronicles of a Bridge, it was crazy because it has a hinge point on everything that went down in me and my family's life around the year 2020, right? So we had the craziness that culture was going through in 2020. And so we had all the civil unrest. We had COVID, which was a thing that was popping off. And so we had like a bunch of stuff going on, right? And during that time, stuff was just going down in our lives. And it was during that time that I stepped down from my civilian ministry. And I was angry. I was just filled with like frustration and sadness and just confusion and all kind of stuff, right? And my wife, we were laying in bed one night, and she looked at me. She was like, "Yo, either you go back to school and get a doctorate, or you write a book, because what you're doing right now is not working." And I was like, well, I guess I'm writing a book, because I'm not going back to get my doctorate right now. So wrote a book, man. And from the time that I made a decision to write a book until the time that I finished it, it took me like 4 months. Like I said, I was angry. I was just angry writing. Like, there was just a bunch of stuff that I needed to get off my chest. And I was working with some folks at the time, and some dear brothers of mine in the Lord. They were like, writing it's gonna be cathartic for you. Like, it's gonna be healing. And I was like, I don't know how this is gonna be healing, but I just need to get this out, right? I was like, I think I'm still going to be mad at the end of this process. And thankfully, man, like, God met me in the middle of that. Like, God kind of reshaped some of my heart. He tampered down some anger. I still got beef in my heart that me and God are still wrestling through. Just because, some people did some crappy stuff, man, and trying to figure out how to live through that, trying to figure out how to honor God with my thought processes and the way I treat people and stuff like that. It's been different, man. They say ain't no hurt like church hurt. I've heard that saying before, and man, it's true. It's true, especially as a pastor. It was just different. It was just different. We've had friends that have done us dirty, but this was different. And so God helped me write that book. If y'all want to check that book out, I'd appreciate it. It's on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. It's called Chronicles of a Bridge. scgilliam. So you can check that out and give me some feedback on it. That was my first writing attempt. It was the first time of me just kind of letting things flow. I didn't really have a huge like thought process that went into it before I wrote. Like some people will sit down and they'll map out where they want to go and what they want to say. I did some mind bubbles. I had this little app that I used and had some thought bubbles that I was kind of just wanting to get it somewhat in order what my thoughts were going to be. But it was so raw, and it was so it was just me, man. It's got some silly quotes in there. It's me shouting out my family. It's me kind of exploring how God has taken me on this journey of never really fitting into anybody's box. Even almost in no box. Like, so where I'm from, in South Carolina, I got there when I was 8, so I didn't necessarily fit in. Still had an accent, or at least people in the South tell me I got an accent. And so I never really fit in culturally, because I was, even in the summertime, because I had to go back to Ohio to visit my dad's side of the family. When I would go back there, my family would tell me, man, you got a weird accent. And so I didn't fit in with friends in South Carolina, didn't necessarily always fit in with family back in Ohio. And it was like I had to wear these masks, man. And it's where this idea, God kind of put it on me during the midst of all that, like the concept of a bridge, and how a bridge just kind of is isolated and alone. Like nobody ever thinks about the bridge as a noun. Usually when we use bridge, we use it as a verb, and how we bridge between cultures, or we think about Jesus, how he was the bridge between us and God. And there's that artwork out there that kind of depicts how the cross was a bridge between humanity, the sinfulness of humanity, and the holiness of God, and Christ is that bridge, right? But that's it's almost like a verb, like Christ is the thing that does this thing for us. But thinking about it as a person that just is just standing in between culture and standing in between people, and just is just there, like they don't really fit in on either side, and just kind of explored that and what that means and how lonely that can be, man. So that went well. Like I said, I didn't really advertise it, and so everybody that's gotten the book, I appreciate y'all for reading it. I appreciate the feedback you've given me on it. And so that was my first little attempt at being a content creator. And so went on from there and start doing the verse of the day stuff that you guys, hopefully y'all tuning into over on YouTube. Also recently got up on Rumble. I know some people got bad vibes from Rumble just because they might hang out on the more liberal side politically, and Rumble is probably more full of people on the political right. But like I said, I don't necessarily fit in, so I'm over on YouTube, I'm over on Rumble, and I'm trying to get it cracking. So y'all support your boy over there. And yo, shout out real quick. Shout out to Troy. Troy, y'all, if y'all listened to the last episode, Troy came on. We were hanging out in Troy when we were wrapping up. I was like, yo, man, what kind of feedback you got for me? He's like, yo, you need a mic. Even if it's just one to get you started, and you can get some more later. He was like, but you need a mic. And so your boy Troy hooked me up. He got some new equipment. He was like, yo, I want to pay it forward and hook you up with a mic so you can get it going. I was like, oh, man, this is crazy. So been trying out the mic this past week, and it's working good so far. Hopefully y'all can tell the difference in the sound quality. But it's just like content creating, right? And he said in there, like, there's something different about content creators that we kind of gotta stick together almost. And on top of that, being a Christian content creator is different, man. So we got all these worlds, if you will, cultural societies online. So YouTube is like a culture in and of itself. Rumble is a different culture in and of itself. And you got Twitch, and you got Reddit. You've got all kind of different like social media platforms or content creating platforms that they're their own little community in and of themselves. And so for a Christian going into these communities and joining the community, it's awesome, man, because we get a chance to go in and shape our message to the community. We get a chance to like learn the language like Paul did. Paul, as he went to Athens up on Mars Hill, and he's crafting the gospel message to suit the culture that he's talking to. And man, we need more content creators in these spheres, man. We need more people of God to learn good theology, to understand how everything points to Christ. And so that when we enter into these communities, that we can speak to it well and not lose the meat of the message. You know what I mean? We don't want to lose the meat of the message. Like, we want to preach Christ and Christ crucified, that he died up on the cross and rose 3 days later, and now is seated at the right hand of the Father. Like, we want to make sure we got that message down pat. And then once we have that message down pat, to go into these other communities like missionaries and hang out with folks, and then look for those opportunities to apply the gospel to their particular community. We need more of it. And so learning what it means to be a content creator on here, learning all the rules that you got to do, things you can and can't say. I definitely want to continue to expand what I'm doing, like on YouTube and stuff like that. Like, I want to get into the point where I see a lot of reaction videos on YouTube, and it seems like that's where most people, like, they do the most engagement. And really, that's what I want to do, man. I want to be able to engage people with the gospel. I don't want to be over here just kind of flapping my gums and hoping people listening, man. I want to engage with folks. And it seems like the engagement that happens on YouTube and Rumble and places like that is when you're doing reactions, or there's also reaction that comes, there's back and forth that comes with having like a real controversial opinion or something like that. But right now, being in the military, being in a position where I can't really say the fullness of what I want to say, you know what I mean? I'm learning right now. I'm learning the tricks of the trade right now and how to do it, and getting to the point where a little bit down the line, start getting more and more confidence of what I can and can't say, who's listening, who's not listening, what audiences are going to listen in and tune in, how y'all are taking the information in and using it, or encouraged by it to have these conversations. Because what I found out, man, what I'm realizing over the years, we all have these kind of conversations, or at least we have the thoughts. Like, we'll be sitting around having like political conversations with our family, or we're talking about work, and it's just the gospel just kind of wells up in us a little bit, and we're like, oh snap, that what you just said reminded me of this verse, and this is something that Jesus would have said. And by the way, did you know Jesus said he's the way and the truth and the life? And that means that we can't have all these different realities. Like, reality can't be relative, because he says he's the way and the truth and the life. Like different conversations like that. I know that they already naturally pop up, man. I just want to encourage people to have them more, and to think about it more, and to be solid in the reading of the word, and solid in their theology, so they can actually have these conversations and God can use it to bring people to Christ. Like, that's it, man. That's the goal of the Christian life, is to talk more and more about Christ. And so doing the YouTube thing, doing the podcast thing, I'm in the midst of writing another book So a lot of y'all didn't know. Um, Chronicles of the Bridge was like a one-time thing. And for those of you who read the book, some folks got kind of frustrated with me at the end because they're like, "Well, where's the good news of this?" Because I just kind of a spoiler. I just kind of left it. I left it where I was at the time, and I was just in a place where I was super frustrated. Even though God met me in the midst of all that, when I got through with the book, I was just, like I said, frustrated, and I didn't have a lot of hope that things would get better. I think God is slowly changing that. There's still some harm, but God is changing that, right? So that was a nonfiction book, but for a long time, I have always wanted to become a fictional writer. So one of the things about me, I'm really into video games, man. I've been into video games since I was a little kid, like I had an Atari. I want to say I had ColecoVision before Atari, so I definitely remember the Atari. An Atari, I had NES, I had a Sega Genesis, I had I don't think I had a Nintendo 64. And then PlayStation came on the scene, man, and I was geeked. I was geeked. And I've loved video games ever since. And I remember one time, it was probably around the time that God was starting to call me and my wife deeper into faith. And we had these friends of ours that had a t-shirt business, and they would go to different Christian festivals and they would sell these t-shirts, Christian t-shirts. And one of the places that we went, because we would help them out, helping set up, tear down, sell, and stuff like that. I went on a break from one of these events, and I'm walking around the venue and looking at all the different shopkeepers and stuff like that. And it was around the time when Left Behind was getting like really big, and I remember they were advertising, or somebody was doing an advertisement for a Left Behind video game. And I remember sitting there watching it, and man, it was corny. And I don't mean that because I know like it takes trying to be a content creator. Like I understand like it takes a lot of work to be relevant, especially if you come in with a Christian message, man. I feel like it's to a culture that doesn't respect God anymore. It's becoming increasingly hard to be a content creator in this culture, right? And so, obviously, I'm a video game lover. I'm looking at this video game, the Left Behind video game, and I'm sorry, man. It was corny. I remember thinking at the time, like this is pretty corny, and ever since that time, I was like, I think I can do better. And I remember going home, writing down a bunch of ideas of what I would want to see in a video game that was exciting to play, but had a Christian message behind it too. Like I wanted the gospel to be on display in a video game. And man, I wrote some stuff down, wrote down some ideas, and then right around the time I was writing down ideas, we had our daughter, like our firstborn, and all that stuff went by the wayside, man. For those of you who are parents, you understand what I'm talking about. Like it's just the brain space to be creative left. With each sleepless night, I got less and less creative. And now it's like 11 years later. I was digging through the old laptop that I had, and I saw that the video game idea, and I'm in this space where, you know, the kids are a little bit older. We're starting to settle into life a little bit. God is kind of increasing that creative bone. I was like, man, I think I want to go back and revisit this whole video game idea. And so I'm starting to not only write down a script and some ideas for a video game, but also I have started writing another fiction book. Because what I noticed is, because I'm also a sci-fi lover, there's not many Christian sci-fi books. Once again, Left Behind kind of has the market cornered on that one, and that there's not a ton, especially not by any kind of like Black Christian authors. And so getting into this mind space, like the difference between writing, like angry writing a non-fictional book, and then like trying to detail and chronicle a whole world, a whole fictional world where each character has its own, their own motivation and tendencies and everything else, creating a new language, creating a new environment, how the people interact with the environment, what are their relationships like trying to wrap my mind around being creative in the fictional sphere, especially a sci-fi fictional sphere. It's just different, man. So learning new tools, learning how to convey the gospel in different ways. It's been interesting, man, and getting an opportunity to work with my fellow Drinklings. So shout out to the Drinklings. We're a creative writing group, and my boy Seth just put out his second book. I got it over here. So for those of you who are listening on podcasts, I'm holding up Seth's book. This is Seth's book right here. Just came out not too long ago. I've been kind of diving through it. And then my boy S.A. Moss over there, I want to say he just finished writing his second book. He's going through the editorial process right now. So y'all get a chance to check out what the Drinklings are doing, trying to bust on the scene and get some Christian representation out into the world, man. And but no, they've been instrumental in kind of coming alongside, kind of giving me ideas. Met up with another friend of mine. Shout out to Nick. Nick helped me out with some ideas because, like over time, man, like you just kind of like where you want to go with a story, but how to get there. Sometimes it's hard to see the breadcrumbs, if you know what I'm saying. And so having other people speak into your creative process, that's been really good for me, especially as I'm trying to transition my brain from not being creative for so long to now being creative in a lot of different spheres. You're learning new stuff. And so been going through it, man. Been jotting some stuff down. I don't have a timeline on any of that stuff. I wish I did. But this is what we do, man. We are creative, and we get a chance to be creative in our daily lives. Even if you're not a person that goes out and writes books or creates video games or makes music or any of that kind of stuff, we can still be creative, like going home and cooking something new or building something that you've never built before, like working with wood or working with metal. Right now out in the desert, there's a ton of people out there who don't know Christ that are, I call it worship. They're out there worshiping Burning Man. And there are a bunch of creatives that are out there. And man, just going through that mind sphere, right? So like, it feels like right now in our world, people that are creative feel like they're venturing further away from God a lot of times. And the need to have more creatives that are grounded in Scripture, that are grounded in the Word, that are grounded in their theology is becoming increasingly important. Because even some folks in the church, like people that, we celebrate beside, and they would call themselves the creative types. I just noticed, man, they feel like they're more susceptible to walking away from the faith sometimes, to kind of walking away from good theology. And so, I don't know. I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody like that. I'm just making a general observation. Or maybe I am throwing shade. I don't know. Either way, those folks, they seem to be far away from God over time. They just kind of seep away over time, and we need more creatives that are grounded, that are rooted in Christ. And being a creative is one of those things where it's almost as if we're modeling God himself. Like, have you ever thought about the fact that God, in order for him to speak things into existence, he had to have the idea and then speak it. I'm talking from a humanistic term. I don't know how God's brain works. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not making a theological statement, okay? But in my mind, the way I'm thinking about it, God has a thought, he speaks it into existence, and then it's there. And to understand, like, we are modeling God when we do that. So when you go home tonight and the kids say, "What's for dinner?" and you're like, "Let's try something new." And the idea formulates, and then with the work of your hands, like, you create something new and beautiful and smelly and delicious. And man, I feel like that's a way that we model God. I feel like that's the way that we, just like John 1 says, nothing that was made outside of him. Everything was made through the word of God. Everything that has being came from Christ. And so in the same way, like when God said, "Be fruitful and multiply," it was also him giving us creative license to go forth and do our own little mini creations. We can't create anything ex nihilo. I can't talk today, y'all. Ex nihilo. We can't make something out of nothing the way God does. But man, we can create some stuff that's funky fresh. Maybe you're a clothes designer and you got some fresh creations ruminating in your brain, and you draw them out, and you get somebody, or maybe even yourself, you sit down in a sewing machine and you bring those ideas to life. Maybe you are good with your hands and you're creating, my wife does these knitted blankets. They're not knitted. They're like, she braids them together. I don't know the right words, but she puts them together, and they're awesome. And people, they're like, "When are you gonna make me a blanket?" She brings that creativity forth. People who do, man, if you guys have ever been on something like Etsy, oh my goodness, people go on there with their creative talents, and it's crazy the things that they can create. And my thing is, that is something that God handed down to humanity. But over time, the way sin does, we forget that we've been handed this creative license as a way to glorify Christ. And we're supposed to be doing music to his glory. We're supposed to be doing the work of our hands to his glory. We're supposed to be coming up with creative worlds and the retelling of historical moments to his glory. We're supposed to be coming on here on these social media platforms, and when we come over here, we're supposed to be doing it to his glory. One of the worst things that I think a Christian can do is go onto Facebook, make a bunch of rants and raves about stuff, and don't do it to the glory of Christ. It's crazy. It's crazy that we think that we can take this creative license from God and not use it to glorify him. It's wild stuff, but the more that we think through that, the more that we can see our creative talents being used in a way that honors God, I think it will start to encourage other content creators to come forward. It'll encourage other people of faith to say, how am I going to use my talents to glorify Christ? I know people that they work on cars. But when's the last time you see somebody work on a car in order to honor Christ? With the sole intent of honoring Christ. Like, when's the last time you've been to a car show? Or When's the last time you've been to? We got like Hot August Nights here or Street Vibrations. It's like everybody comes out with their motorcycles. When's the last time you've been to one of those events and it was to the glory of Christ? When's the last time you went to a food truck place and these food truck vendors, man, they come up with these creative ideas. If you ever watch that show, Carnival Eats, it's on Food Network. I'm getting no money from them. Me and my family just like the show. These folks, they have these like crazy ideas of stuff to deep fry, like deep fried ice cream or deep fried pickles. And now that those things are like national treasures. I saw one person, I want to say they did a deep fried peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I was like, my saliva is not containable when I see this show, y'all. I'm trying to tell y'all. But when's the last time you saw somebody with the sole intent of doing that to the glory of Christ? Yeah, they do it, and they bring smile to people's faces, and they might say, yeah, I do this to the glory of God. But it almost feels like an add-on. It almost feels like they're just kind of tacking it on at the end, and they're not doing it with the sole intent of glorifying Christ. I remember back when I was a kid, you had these people that were Christian music artists, right? Or they would say they were music artists, and then they'd come through and say, all glory to God, like they'd win an award. They'd be like, hey, shout out to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But you listen to their music and it was anything but God honoring. And even people that, I remember Kanye came out with College Dropout, and I think that was the album where Jesus Walks came off the album, and everybody was geeked, right? They're like, Kanye is a Christian, and our minds began to swirl with the possibilities. One of the best beat makers of a hip hop generation is proclaiming Christ on the airwaves. I was jazzed. I was listening to the song like, there's so many possibilities with this. And I remember thinking to myself, what would be awesome is if he used the concept of a tithe and said, you know what, if I create 10 beats, I'm going to give one of those beats to a Christian artist. And it's not going to be the one I have left over. I'm going to give my best beat to a Christian artist to just wreck the track. That is doing our stuff to the glory of God, man. Like if we walk into our creative in a way that says, honestly, all this belongs to God. All my creativity is just me modeling his greatness. Problem being, a lot of creatives get into their creative zone and they do things to their own greatness. And they say, look how great my art is, and look how great my creations are. And they forget it's God. It's God who gives us those things. And so that's my aim. That's my goal, is to, number one, learn how to be a creative that honors Christ in everything I do. 2 is to be a content creator that encourages other people to do all things to the glory of God. And dabbling my fingers in different zones and different possibilities. Got the support of my fellow Drinklings, got the support of my family, trying to get them and model it for my kids, showing them, no, you have creative talents and you should be able to use those talents. Not should be able to, I take that back. You are almost commanded to use those talents to glorify Christ. I want that. I want that for my family. I want that for our culture, man. I want it so that when I get ready to leave this place, I feel like God has used my talents to raise up another generation of Christians who are not ashamed to go out in culture and just tell people, stop being idol worshipers. Stop chasing after the created things. Stop chasing after your own individualism, your own selfism. It's driving you to hell. and pick up Christ. Use your creative talents with the sole intent of honoring Christ within them. I want to be able to leave this place when I go to leave here, and I want my kids to pick that up and take it and run with it. And so I want to encourage y'all. Come on this show if you want to if you want to chop it up and see what it feels like to start your own. Man, I'll pass along what limited knowledge I have, and man, the more people that are out there, the more we just put Christ out into culture, man. Like, I don't know if y'all have noticed, it's bad out in the streets, man. Like, it's crazy out there. Folks done lost their minds. It's wild. Last guard drill, we were out here, and I just simply asked the folks out here, like, what's the meaning of life? Because they're moral relativists, because everything is about this hedonistic selfism. Even their artistry, even the things that they create, even their efforts on their jobs are just about them. And so I was asking them, like, what's the purpose? Like, once you get to the end of this individualistic hedonism, what's there? Like, there's nothing there anymore. All your efforts were just to serve yourself, and then when you die, it just kind of goes in the ground with you. And we need more people that are in the military to the glory of Christ. Policemen, firemen, nurses, simply for the glory of Christ. We need more pastors that are just to the glory of Christ, man. Oh my goodness. We've had a run of it these last couple years, man. Like, we got some heroes of the faith that they're just falling. Dear brothers, man, dear brothers and sisters. And so I'm praying by the mercy of God that things, they start to calm down, but we need more pastors that are solely to the glory of Christ. We need more moms and dads that are not moms and dads out of frustration or because I don't know the reason people want to have kids. It varies, you know what I mean? But for the most part, they're selfish. I don't know of anybody that says, I want to have kids to the glory of Christ. I want to treat my spouse well to the glory of Christ. I want to write a book with the sole intent of glorifying Christ. Even if I'm talking about sci-fi, even if I'm talking about mystical fantasies and dragons and all kind of stuff, like, I want to introduce aspects of the gospel for people to gravitate towards so they can hear the good news and not perish in hell for eternity. Like that, I want that to be my life's goal. I want to meet people in these spheres, YouTube, Rumble, eventually maybe Twitch, since I like gaming, maybe Reddit. Oh my gosh, Reddit, they doing some wild stuff over there. So I don't know about that one, but I'm sure there's Christians out there that are built for it, and I will pray and support them. But I want to meet people in these spheres that I go into, not to simply just be hanging around and doing what they're doing, man. But I'm coming with the intent of introducing them to Christ, the way, the truth, the life, the only human being that death couldn't hold down, the one and only that has ever seen the Father, the God-man, God incarnate, born of a virgin, perfect life according to the law, unjustly murdered, put on a torture device, and forced to bleed out after having a mock trial, and then die, and then resurrecting. Death can't hold him down, man. And nothing's going to stop him from coming back. And when he comes back, he's going to get his bride. And when he gets his bride, man, oh my goodness. The creativity that's going to be in a place where there's no more death, disease, or dying. Right now, like, if you notice, like, it feels like the majority of our art all celebrates sin. It raises sin up as the most important thing. How awesome would it be for eternity to have creatives in heaven breaking out lunchroom tables, banging out a beat to the glory of Christ, writing love poems about how beautiful the presence of God is, and not just his presence, just seeing him is 1,000-word poem. You know what I mean? Like, ideas about that get me jazzed, and I'm looking forward to it. And I think that's the kind of stuff Jesus was talking about as he was walking on that road to Emmaus. He was walking through and saying, you know how in the beginning God created everything? That was me, fam. I killed it, huh? See the sun, how it just stays perfectly in place. You see all these seasons we got, how the leaves change in the autumn, how snow crystals form, how ice, like you can look inside of ice and see all the different veins and stuff like that in it. How in the springtime it goes from death to life. How in the summertime you got the juiciness of a watermelon. I like watermelon. Y'all don't judge me on that. I can hear the jokes coming from a couple people. Jesus said, I did that. This is my creative talent. You see how you walking around upright, thinking stuff, creating stuff? That was me, yo. Go do likewise. And when you do it to my glory. That's what we need, man. That's the conversation I feel like Jesus was having as he's walking on the road to Emmaus. And by God's grace, man, let's get more creatives into all these different communities. Let's take the gospel of Christ with us, and we can start to affect actual, real change in people's lives, man. People are out there hurting, man. We got some real Edgar Allan Poes out there these days, and they need the gospel. They need some hope. They need some courage to enjoy life. People are scared to enjoy life. They need courage to enjoy life. They need to know that there's a Savior who could forgive their sins. They don't have to be sitting up in hell for eternity. They don't. That doesn't have to be for them. Jesus has in mind those who are his, and we need to match those two up, man. They're in these communities, and we need to go tell them about Jesus. So that's my spiel for today, man. I hope y'all doing good. Y'all, like I said, y'all check me out on the book Chronicles of a Bridge. Y'all look out for works from Seth Wildschut, S.A. Moss. 3 of us got the Drinklings going on, man. We're going to try to expand that into some different areas. We got some ideas going on, maybe some collaborative work. And then y'all look out for stuff from me, man. Continue to support this channel. I appreciate y'all. Keep telling people about it. Because that's the way the algorithms work. The more people that like your stuff, that subscribe to you, the more people they show it to. And so that's how we affect change. That's how we push Christ forward, by supporting this kind of stuff. So love y'all, man. I'm going to wrap it up. Hope y'all doing good. And hit your boy up if you need me. Shout out to everybody that's supporting the channel. Both on podcasts and on YouTube and on Rumble. And yo, until next time, man, y'all be easy. Grace and peace.